Hello, I'm Ichiji, and in today's video, I'll be doing a deck review for an Indica build. The core of this deck revolves around having blue cheese out on the field every moment you're not attacking. This allows you to have constant field presence and a strong defensive backline. This deck uses a few stoners and hybrids in it to help with consistency. One example being Reggie. Reggie has the ability to search your stash for another Reggie when it's destroyed by battle. This allows you to have extra fodder in your deck so that you are able to plant out or harvest another Cannabeast next turn that may cost a higher THC percentage without having to really worry about losing your current Cannabeast on the field. Then we add draw power mixed with white rabbit hole, so you'll get cards that you need white a bit faster. White rabbit hole is a new card that just came on the Flowers of Love set. It says reveal cards at the top of your stash and send them to the ashtray until you draw a nutrient card. You lose 20 pounds for each card discarded this way. It's a very small cost being able to put Cannabeast in your ashtray whenever you need to, or just get a free draw one if you get nutrient on your very next draw. The way I like to use this, if I already have 4 or more ambushes either on my field or in my ashtray, I'll use this because I know I don't have too many ambushes left in my deck, so that my draws will either be sending Cannabeast to the ashtray or gaining an extra draw nutrient to my hand. I mix this with really strong draw power such as Pop Pincher, or I also add Hashtags. These allow you to draw one card. Some of them have downsides to them, like Hashtag here. It skips your next draw phase, but getting cards out and into the ashtray is way more useful than just waiting until you draw every card that you need in your hand. Having this speed in your deck allows you to really gain the extra edge against your opponent. So the next thing I want to talk about is blue cheese. Blue cheese is now good because it's searchable and it combos well with boosters. What do I mean by that? Blue cheese was not really a good card. It hasn't really been a good card for a while because its effect is not that good. Its ability is a sling and it says return 1 nutrient ambush to your opponent's hand. This really isn't that powerful because in the case that you're sending it back, you're not destroying it, and your opponent can play it out again either next turn or during the same turn which this happens. Let's say they attack you, you send back an ambush or a nutrient back to their hand, they can just go into their re-up phase and place it down again. This card, it doesn't really need to use its effect to be good in this deck. I mainly use it because it's one of the only Indicas with a very high defense stat that's at 18% THC. So you don't need a harvest to summon it. And for boosters that I'm talking about in this deck specifically is Liquid Seaweed. So this card is a 3 of. You can have 3 into your deck, stash 3. I run 3 because I tried to build where I only ran 2, was nowhere near as good as having 3. It says that it remains on the field unless destroyed by a card effect, and as long as it remains on the field, all Indica Cannabeast you control gain 30 attack and 30 defense. Next thing I want to talk about is White Rabbit Hole again, because we kind of summarized how we used it in the beginning. So one more thing I wanted to bring up about White Rabbit Hole is that not only has your draw power been increased due to the release of this card, the fact that you can potentially send more Cannabeast to ashtray benefits Pure Love, which gets it a higher attack, and we'll talk about that in a second. And this synergy is only created when Pure Love and White Rabbit Hole came out. These weren't a thing before, which is why I never really made a really good deck profile on Indica prior to this, because Harvest of Horror did give us amazing cards that did help Indicas, but it didn't give it that extra push it needed to become a meta deck. An example being Black Demon. Black Demon is a stash 1, and personally I think this card could be upped to like a stash 2 or a stash 3. The main issue with Indicas is they do have searchable cards now, like Black Demon, but it's a 1 of, so you're not going to get it as consistently as you would, let's say, Concentrates with Cloud 9. So it's pay 100 pounds and you add an Indica Cannabeast to your hand from your stash, which that's crazy good. 100 pounds means nothing for getting the exact card you need to your hand that turn, no questions asked. The other 2 cards I want to talk about are some of the more new cards that came out in Flowers of Love, which is Black Swan. It's an ambush. It says when this card is played, switch battle positions of every Cannabeast on the field. If it's played during battle step, switch the battle positions, then calculate battle damage. So this allows you to go for potentially aggressive and really good defensive plays. You mainly want to use it as a defensive play. Let's say your opponent enters their battle phase, and as soon as they enter their battle phase and attack with one Cannabeast, you just activate this and it switches them all to defense, and they have no choice but to just end their turn after that, or do whatever re-up phase they want, but they have to end their battle step at that point. So regardless, you'll be fine for that turn, and when it's your turn again, you can just switch your blue cheeses back to defense, or whoever you had that was forcibly switched to attack. It doesn't really affect you that much. The other new card I wanted to talk about was Love Room. Send target nutrient or ambush card to the ashtray, and you have to just pay 100 pounds. Again, that's really good. It's an ambush, so I can play it during either person's turn. I can play it before I summon anything, before I plant anything, harvest anything. I can just play this card and pop one from the back line, so it's really good. Very necessary in this deck specifically. So, talked about it a little earlier. I wanted to bring it up since I didn't really go into it, which was Pure Love. This was the card I was saying benefited from cards like White Rabbit Hole. It gains 10 attack for each Cannabeast in yours and your opponent's ashtray. This deck revolves around you getting cards in your ashtray and into your hand. So you basically want to buff cards such as Pure Love to the max extent by any way you can. And that's where that fodder comes in I was talking about earlier, where you're basically just having Reggies out to get more Reggies out from your deck with their effect. And then in turn, you're putting more Cannabeast in the ashtray, and then in turn, you're boosting your Pure Love, while also getting out strong Cannabeast like Sticky Ricky or Dragon Ball, which these two are the heavy hitters of the deck, but they're not necessary in any way, shape, or form. This deck revolves around the primary function of getting cards in your ashtray, getting cards in hand, getting nutrients in your ashtray, getting Cannabeast in your ashtray, because the end goal is to either bring out Pump Kush, as many as you can once you start having a lot of nutrients or Cannabeast in grave, or bring out your Pure Love. Both of which are Indica, let me remind you, and they are searchable with Black Demon. You don't have to have these cards out early game. It doesn't matter if you have them in your hand early game. You don't really want to play them out early game. You want your blue cheeses out early game. Those will be the strongest cards to just hold up a defense until you can get your deck going. Start milling cards with White Rabbit Hole, start drawing cards with your crazy draw power, the pop pinchers, the hashtags. That's really the extent of this deck. Those are the two win conditions of this deck, are getting your Pump Kushes out, super high attack, going for like one turn KOs, or getting your Sticky Ricky Dragon Balls with liquid Seaweeds that are boosting their attack. One more thing I want to add is that a very, very, very strong combo that you can run with this deck is with Spooky Sunset. As many decks have cards like this, especially like the Collector, which it also has around the same effect. It mills cards in order to search for a blue dream. This deck mills cards looking for a nutrient, or we just have a lot of draw power in order to get cards in our ashtray and get cards in the field, like I was saying earlier. But Spooky Sunset, its effect is any Cannabeast under 20% THC that has been sent to ashtray this turn is revived back to the field. What that means is if I use my White Rabbit Hole and I have a Spooky Sunset, I can play it face down and start using my White Rabbit Hole, start discarding cards off the top of my deck or milling them off the top of my deck until I get to a nutrient. And let's say I send 5 Cannabeasts from the top of my deck to the ashtray. Then what I do is play Spooky Sunset and they're all revived back to the field, as long as they're below 20% THC, which the crazy part about this deck is around 80% of the actual Cannabeasts in this deck are way below 20%, to where you'll be able to get them out with Spooky Sunset very easily. The only ones that don't are obviously your heavy hitters. Do-Si-Doe is also in here just for that extra little bit of poke damage. It allows to attack your opponent's pounds directly. It just has 0 defense and it's not getting boosted by anything else, so it's kind of just there to be annoying and to bait out ambushes, because you want your opponent to use all of their ambushes before you get to your really heavy hitters like your Pump Kush endgame, your Pure Love endgame. Even if they do, you're still in a fine spot because you have Spooky Sunset. This deck runs Relighting Roach, which, by the way, I'll make sure to post the entire deck list in the description of the video so that everyone can access it if they want. They can make whatever changes they want. The last card I want to talk about for this video is the Cotton Candy Kush. I run 3 of these in this deck just because of how strong it is as a card. You can play it out just as bait to get destroyed by your opponent. This card's very good because it does not need to be sent to the ashtray by any specific means. The card just reads when this card's sent to the ashtray, draw a card. So that can be from hand, from your deck, your stash, from your field, anywhere. It doesn't matter where, as long as it touches the ashtray, you get its effect and you get to draw a card, which adds to the draw power of this deck. The last minute things I'll bring up, it runs 1 Heat Wave, Reggie Revive. I would argue you could run 1 more Reggie Revive if you want. It just allows you to, exactly what it says, it revives 1 Reggie from your ashtray to your field. Doobies of Light is really good for stalling tactic. When this card's activated, your opponent can't attack for 2 turns. I run Budbusters, it's another good card. It allows you to pop 1 by discarding 1. Reverse Roll, all the standard staples, Snow Day. Oh yeah, that was one thing I wanted to talk about. So Snow Day has become actually a like top tier meta card. So with the release of Collector from Harvest of Horrors, that card allows you to mill cards until you get to a blue dream, and then you're allowed to plant it to the field immediately. So what Snow Day does is it negates that effect.
You go, I go. What you see, I see.
When your opponent draws that blue dream, they reveal it to you, you activate Snow Day, and what it will do is stop it from being planted. So it won't be planted, and that's all that literally matters. Like, it doesn't matter beyond that. They can mill as many cards as they want, which can also benefit cards like Pump Kush, you know, Pure Love for themselves, but Snow Day stops the main part of that ability, which is the planting of a blue dream. So I think every deck should run Snow Day right now currently. So Reverse Roll, First Degree Burn, these are all really standard. Last Roll Up, they are just very good ambushes that basically pop 1, or very good Nutrients, which are just draw 1. Northern Lights, destroy all Cannabeast on your opponent's side of the field. Re-Up, draw 2. Switcheroo, basically reverse the effects of an attack or a card effect. And Dr. Chaos, same thing. All in all, I would say this deck has great potential, and the only changes I would make would be to possibly add a Steam Joint Willy, or sub in a partial Concentrate Core instead of running the Reggie / Cotton Candy Kush one that is currently there. So thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like the content and want to see the next video. Thank you.